Hey, this is Jennifer Priest, and today I'm going to show you how to make a decoupage collaged canvas. So let's get started. Okay, so what I have here is my color catcher. This is from Clear Snap, and this is just a box. People kind of call it a spray booth where you could spray your spray inks, but what I use it for is also a place where I can paint and not mess up my cutting mat. So I have my little canvas. These are 4x4 canvases that I got on clearance a couple years ago. I like to cruise the clearance aisles of craft stores because I never know what I'm going to find that's really cool to use. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decoupage I have some different things I'm going to decoupage. I have dictionary paper, some doily pieces. If you can see those, they're really ornate. And then some pieces of lace. And you can decoupage pretty much anything, but I want the lace and the doily to give me some texture. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to coat my canvas with some decoupage. And this is my favorite decoupage medium right now. It's from ilovetocreate.com. It's Tracy Batista's Collage Page decoupage. And what I like about it is that it dries really quick and it dries fast. So I'm just going to squeeze it right there onto my canvas. And this bottle is towards the end, so I'm just storing it upside down. This decoupage medium has a really good texture too. So I'm just going to coat it. It's okay if it's messy because my box will catch all my little drips and things. And what's nice is that you can just layer upon layer of the paper. Now what I'm going to do is take my dictionary paper and kind of crumple it, and this is going to give it some texture. And then I'll kind of crumple it a little bit before I stick it on there because I want all these ridges and everything to be on my canvas. So I'm just going to kind of wrap my canvas with the dictionary paper. And if there's a place where it kind of dries, because this does dry pretty quick, just collage, just put more decoupage on top. Now on places like this where I'm having like this little fold, I want to kind of get the decoupage in there and then press it down so that I get this really cool texture on the outside. And if you see that it's not sticking in places, just put more decoupage medium there. So under your folds, you're going to want to try to put some decoupage medium so that it sticks. I'm just going to kind of coat the top a little so that it flattens out some. And the reason I chose dictionary paper, and you can also do this with like pattern tissue paper, is because it's thinner. Like if I couldn't do this with a regular scrapbook paper, it wouldn't lay flat like I want this to. I'll have a little bit of texture where the folds are, but it wouldn't kind of pop off of this once I was done with it. Alright, so I'm just going to take another piece of dictionary paper, kind of crumple it up. And you can actually kind of tear pieces to stick where you want them at. Now you could, on the dictionary paper, try to choose pages that have a meaning, like if there's a certain letter or something like that. You could do that, but you don't have to if you don't want to. These are just pages. I think these are E words. It doesn't really have a meaning for what I'm doing because I'm going to cover some of this with paint. Now I remember when I was in art school, like in high school, I didn't go to college art school or anything like that, but we did all kinds of cool stuff like this, and I always thought that you had to be like an artist to do that. And I mean, not that scrapbookers and paper crafters aren't artists, but we kind of don't always consider ourselves that way. But there's definitely things that you might have learned in art class at school, or if you went to college, you might have taken an art class in college, and you might have tried some cool techniques. Those are definitely things you can use in your paper crafting. You don't have to just think it's reserved for art class. I'm just going to kind of cover this one little spot. And I'm going to do this to each of my canvases and let them dry. Now once it's dry, I can either wrap this part that's on the back, I can wrap that around and glue it down, or I can just kind of tear it off, and that gives you some more texture here on the sides. So while it's wet, it's easy to tear, or you can just wait till it's dry, or you can wrap it around if you want. And these little bits and pieces you can use other places. Oops, my finger got glued to that section. And I'm not using a fancy brush. These, you know, I get these brushes at like Joann's when they're on clearance. So I'll just set that guy in the back there to dry. And then I'll start on my next one. I like to get them when they're 15 brushes for $1 because they work out to be about, I think, 6 cents each, which is super cheap. So if it does break, then you can just get a new one. Now I know it's probably not eco-friendly to be throwing the brush away, but they just don't last, you know, and I wouldn't want to use an adhesive with a nice paintbrush that I spent like $20 or $30 on. So here I'm just gluing my little pieces and wrapping it. You can have it be a little flatter like this one, as it has a little bit less texture. But to make it match my other one, I'm going to want to have some of the texture. Now one of the cool things is if you look, you can kind of see it more on these pages. There's the little notch on the page where the dictionary was cut out of. That's a cool part to have on the front of your book. And then also you can kind of see the edges of the paper are a little darker. So when you're putting stuff across the front, you may want to have some of those darker vintagey lines showing here on the front. And you don't have to have all your words going right side up either. You can have stuff going upside down. That's totally fine. So here I'm going to crumple and fold and get me some texture on the side here. Now typically these kinds of canvases where they have a lot of area on the side here, they're gallery wrapped canvases, are a little bit more expensive, but like I said, cruise the clearance aisles of the craft store and you never know what you'll find. And I've got a bunch of these for like 10% of what they should have cost. And cruise craft stores and yard sales too, because sometimes people are just like getting rid of their stuff, you know. Go to the thrift store. Sometimes I found big bags of yarn and fabric at the thrift store before. So there's always cool stuff, and definitely that's a great place to go to get your dictionaries. This one is actually my dictionary from high school. I was having my daughter use it and it didn't even have the word the internet in it, so I thought, it's pretty out of date. I gotta get a new one. So instead of throwing it away, recycle. So I don't recycle the brushes, but I do recycle books. So you can just recycle. So do your best to recycle as much as you can, you know. Alright, so this guy's pretty good. Now, what you might want to go ahead and do at this point, if you know what you're going to do with your doilies and stuff, I like to kind of rip my doily up. So this one kind of has this little cute basket pattern on it, and you'll have to excuse all the glue on my hands. So you can kind of just rip it apart into pieces and then put a good coat of your decoupage medium and then start adding your doily. And again, if it overlaps the edge, you want it to wrap around, so use that decoupage medium to wrap this around. And the reason I like this decoupage medium too is because unlike some of the other ones on the market, it dries matte and it's not sticky when it dries. And living in the high desert here, it is dusty, and I just cannot stand sticky stuff because just dirt and grossness wants to stick to it. So put some of my little doily there. And maybe another little piece over here. And it doesn't, I'm not worried about the images, I just want that texture of the doily to be peeking through so you can kind of see what it looks like here on my canvas. There's just little pieces of doily. Alright, last one. So I'm making a little trio of these. And then what I'm going to do is kind of like a stained glass effect with my Epiphany craft tools. Okay, so I have my 3 canvases there. So while I'm waiting for those to dry, I'm going to clean up my space. And this is, again, the beauty of the color catcher. I can just take my catcher with my 3 canvases, move it to the side so that those guys can dry really well. And now I still have my space to work in. I don't know why it's so dusty over here. But I'm going to take a little moment to go wash my hands and I'll be right back.